Hey everybody, my name is Ryan, and here at eTrailer we install, test fit, and review a lot of different parts. That way we could try to answer any questions those of you might have. And that's exactly what we're doing today here on our 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee. We're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster high power diode wiring kit. So you're going to have a total of 5 main components needed to flat tow your Jeep down the road. First one's going to be your base plate. The base plate is going to provide us with the solid and reliable connection point. That way we can hook our tow bar up to it. That tow bar is going to be the second main component. This is going to be the physical link that connects the front of your Jeep to the back of your motorhome. Third main component is going to be safety cables. Now these are there in the event of an unlikely disconnect. They're going to keep everything attached together. The fourth main component is going to be tow bar wiring. This is going to transfer the lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Jeep, keeping you safe and legal. And last but not least, the fifth main component is going to be your braking system. So the braking system is going to apply the brakes in your Jeep whenever you hit the brakes in your motorhome, bringing you to more of a safe and predictable stop. And this is a perfect example on how the wiring kit is going to work. As you can see, we have the left turn going on our motorhome, and that's running it back here to the left turn signal on our Jeep. But not only are we going to get the turn signals, but we're also going to get the tail lights as well as the brake lights. So out of the wiring options available, I will say the diode wiring would be my first choice, and that's really for a few different reasons. First one being that once it's installed, you're not even going to know it's there. It's going to be completely hidden, so it's not going to take away from the looks of your Jeep. Second, and probably the most important reason, is it's going to be super easy to hook up. Whenever you're ready to flat tow, all you're going to have to do is plug the cord in from the front of your Jeep to the back of your motorhome. That's really all there is to it. And the third big reason is the fact that it uses those diodes. And so those diodes, what they're going to do is protect your Jeep's factory wiring if it's short or another electrical issue were to occur on the motorhome side. And that's really important with today's newer vehicles. These Jeeps have really complicated electrical systems, and you don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. And with this kit, that's something you're not going to have to worry about. So whenever you are ready to use it, here at the front, you're going to take your cable and simply just plug it in to the connector at the front of your Jeep and the connector to the back of your motorhome. Now I want to mention this kit does not come included with the cable or the connector, so this would be a perfect option for those of you that, one, either already have these components or potentially you purchased a tow bar that comes included with the cable and the plug. So a couple of different reasons and situations where this kit would be a perfect fit. However, with that being said, you can still pick up these components separately to make a full kit. And you can find all that right here at eTrailer. So at the end of the day, really nice wiring kit, and honestly I think this is the best way to go. Just the ease of use is what really sells it for me. Now as far as the installation goes, it's really not too bad. I will say probably the most time consuming part at least is actually running the wire from the front here all the way to the back. But as long as you take your time, you shouldn't have any issues getting it done at home. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and do that together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the front of our Jeep, and we have our fascia removed because we're doing our wiring the same time that we did our base plate. Makes it a lot easier. And first thing we're going to do is hook up one end of our wiring harness. Now, I want to mention the bracket or the plug doesn't come included with this kit. You can pick these up separately, or a lot of times, like in our case, the tow bar that our customer is using actually came included with the plug and the bracket. So just wanted to throw that out there. With that being said, we got one end of our wire, ran it through our bracket. We take the rubber boot and slide that over it. Just kind of push it out of the way for now. And then what we're going to do is separate the 4 wires. So I'm just going to carefully snip in between them. Kind of get them started. Then we can just peel them back a few inches. Once we have them pulled back, what I like to do just to kind of give us a fresh end is just kind of cut off a little bit of the ends. And then we're going to strip back the insulation on all 4 wires. Get this insulation out of the way, and then we're going to be able to hook up our plug. So once you have them stripped back, I kind of like to twist the wires, keep them nice and tight together. That way it'll help ensure we have a good connection. That being said, we can now grab our plug. Now if we flip the plug over, we're going to see our terminals here, and we have to identify what color wire is going to go to what terminal. And if you look closely around each terminal, you can actually see some lettering. So we'll start with this one here, labeled GD for ground, so our white wire will go to it. This one is TM for taillights, our brown wire will go there. We'll skip this one. We'll then move to this one here, which is labeled RT for right turn, so our green wire will go to it. And this one here, LT for left turn, so our yellow wire will go there. Now these are just set screws, and I backed mine out. Just take a small Phillips head screwdriver, run them out a little bit, and then we can take the corresponding wire, put it into the appropriate terminal, and just snug down that set screw. And I use that same process there to get the 3 remaining wires hooked up. So this is what it looks like once we have our wires plugged in. At that point, you can take your cover, push that over, and then I'm just going to secure the plug to our bracket. Now what we can do is start to route our wiring from our connector plug here to the back of our Jeep. So I went ahead and started, and this is the path that I took. Just ran it along through here, along this factory harness, securing it along the way with some zip ties. And then we can kind of just run it up, kind of right underneath our headlight, kind of shoots up that way and goes into the engine compartment. So if you look right here, you can see this is where that wire comes up. And in this area, I did give us a little bit of slack to work with. If you're installing a braking system that requires you to tap into this wiring, then it's a good idea to give you a little extra up here so you have some room to work. Well, with that being said, you can kind of push it through one of these openings here where all these factory wires go through. And it runs inside of this pocket and goes down through a factory grommet. Now it's a little tricky to see the grommet from up here, but if you move underneath the Jeep, we can have a really good look at it. So now underneath of our Jeep, on the passenger side, if you look up right behind our front tire, you'll see that factory opening where we are able to push our wire through. So our wire just kind of runs back through here, heading towards the back of our Jeep. And what I'm going to do actually is I found this factory stud here, and that should work out perfect for a grounding point. So that being said, I'm going to kind of eyeball the length of the wire, and I'm going to cut it. Now I'm just going to cut the white portion of the wire. You don't want to cut into the other, so be careful while you're doing this. And kind of peel the white wire apart. And we want to ground the side of the wire that goes up to the front of our Jeep. So peel that away. I'll grab my tool here and strip back the insulation. Give it a good twist. I'm going to take the ring terminal, slide that onto the bare end of the wire, and crimp it down. Now, originally there was not a nut on this. I actually found a nut with the the same type of thread pitch. And so that's what I'm going to use to secure it. However, if you can't find a nut or don't have one laying around, you can always use the provided self-tapping screw and simply just screw into a solid metal portion to get your ground secured. So I'll just take the nut. I'm actually using a flange nut. That way it will kind of bite the ring terminal better and you don't have to worry about it kind of backing off. For my socket and snug it down. With that done, we'll take the other portion of our white wire and we're just going to completely remove it from the rest of our wiring harness here. And you want to hold on to it because we're probably going to need it here in a little while. So I'll just peel this all the way off, set it to the side, and then I'll continue to route the rest of my harness. So I went ahead and continued to route our wiring, and I just followed this plastic cover here. It actually conveniently had some little tabs here that already had holes in them, so you could zip tie it all the way back. I just continued to kind of go up along the side of our fuel tank here. Let's see, it comes out here. Then I went up and over our subframe. Now, when you're doing this, really pay attention, especially in this area. You want to do your best to avoid any hot or moving parts. So I got it all the way up at the top there, away from everything. Just continues to come out. So that's where it came out of our subframe. And at that point, I split our wiring. So just how we pulled off that white wire, I just separated the green wire from the yellow and the brown. The green wire continued to run to the passenger side. I zip tied it there. Kind of just put it up and over our factory hitch. And it drops down right here. And we're just going to kind of let this hang for now. Moving back to where everything wies off, our yellow and brown wire will get ran towards the driver's side. So I just shot that straight across through here. Ran it up through this small opening, and that's where I'm going to let this wire hang for now. So now we need to remove our tail light. So if you open up the hatch and you look in the jamb here, you're going to see we have two push pin style fasteners holding our tail light on. So to get those out, we're going to take a trim tool or a flathead screwdriver. You're going to pry underneath the head of it. And then you can get underneath the base and work it out. Sometimes you may have to pull the head out by itself, like that, to be able to easily get the base out. Once you have those out, you can kind of put them back together so you don't lose them. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Once we have those removed, you can grab your light, and you're just going to want to kind of rock it back and forth and pull out towards the back. Once you have it removed, we can disconnect it by pushing those red tabs out, squeezing down, and removing these three connectors. The tab comes out, no big deal. You can simply just push it back in. But I'll set our light off to the side for now and repeat the same process to get the other one removed. Now what we can do is get our wiring into the taillight pocket. So I'm using a pull wire. This is a piece of nylon tubing. You can use a coat hanger or a thicker piece of wire, whatever you might have kind of laying around the house. And what I did is just taped our yellow and brown wire to that pull wire, as well as that extra length of white wire that we saved from earlier. So once you have that all taped up, you can pull on your wire, feed everything up into the taillight pocket, and then just separate it from our pull wire. Now we can get our wires ready that they're up here in the taillight pocket. The yellow wire, and you're going to want to strip the insulation back on all three. With the yellow wire, we're going to take one of the blue spade terminals, slide that over, and crimp it down. And the white and brown wire, it's going to be a little bit different. What we're going to do is twist these two together. So make sure you get them nice and tight, like that. And then we're going to take the yellow spade terminal and crimp that onto those two wires. Once you have that done, we can prepare our factory wiring. So I went ahead and tested the wiring, and what we're looking for is our turn signal and our taillight signal. So this connector here, that's a little bit larger. The white wire is going to be for our turn signal, and this connector, which is a little bit smaller, the white wire with the gray stripe, that's going to be our taillight signal. So with that being said, I'm going to cut these about in half. And what I'm going to do, all four ends, we're going to peel back the insulation and crimp on a blue spade terminal. So I'll go ahead and do that same thing for our three remaining ends. So now that we have all four ends situated, what we can do is take our diode, and the side that has one terminal that says out, you're going to plug that into the wire closest to your plug. Plug in like that. Then we'll go to the corresponding factory wire. We'll plug that one in the other side of the diode. And since this solid white wire is for our turn signal, we're going to be plugging in the yellow portion, or the yellow wire that we ran up into it. And more or less the same deal for our other wire. Side that says out, close to the connector plug. It goes into the corresponding other factory wire. And then we can take our white and brown and get that plugged into the last terminal there. With our diodes all hooked up, we can plug our connectors back into the taillight. And I think what I'm going to do is just kind of eyeball it, start to reinstall it more or less, and see if there's any way or any place I can kind of secure our diodes a little bit better. So this is kind of how I position my diodes. If you look on the back side of them, there's some sticky tape, so you can peel that off. And I think this should give us enough room to be able to reinstall our light. Just do it carefully and make sure you don't pinch anything. And don't forget to take your push pin fasteners and reinstall those as well. Now back underneath our Jeep, I routed our white wire over to the passenger side, and here's where it comes down from our taillight pocket over here on the driver's side. And I just shot it across, again, securing it along the way using some zip ties. Brought it up and over our factory hitch, and this is where it meets up with the green wire. So from there, I dropped a pull wire down just like we did the other side, taped our wires to it. Now we can go back up top, pull them into the taillight pocket and get everything hooked up. So I went ahead and hooked up our diodes over here on the passenger side the same exact way that we did the driver's side, except with one exception, and that's just the color of the wires. So our turn signal, it's going to be the larger plug, just like the other side. And that factory wire that we're going to use will be white with a green stripe. So our new green wire will plug into that one. And for our taillights, the wire is that same smaller plug. And the wire is going to be white with an orange stripe. And so our new white wire that we ran over here plugs into that diode. So with these hooked up, I go ahead and plug in our taillight and install it the same way. Now with everything hooked up, it's a good idea to test your wiring. So I went ahead and plugged into a tester box. Go ahead and try our taillights, our left turn signal, our right turn signal, and our brakes. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster high power diode wiring kit on our 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee.